Every day on this channel, Jacob goes through everything Elon Musk said on X over the last 24 hours. Jacob's still on break, so I'm filling in for him today. Let's get right into it. Elon posted a total of 87 times today, mainly focusing on politics, but there is a couple exciting announcements regarding a Grok update, as well as a fun experience in which Elon helped someone's mom with tech support. So let's get right into it. So I wanted to start off with this funny thread of Elon Musk helping out someone's mom. It all started when Audrey Strobel said, "Not sure who my mom thinks I am." And she showed this picture. Her mom asks, "Are you busy?" And she says, "Why?" And the mom says, "I need you to reach out to Elon for me." Elon replied, "Your mom have a question?" Audrey's response was, "LOL, she does." And she posted this picture. He replied to you, "Cool. Tell him I've always wanted to take dad to one of the rocket launches in Texas. Is there any way we can see the one on the 13th? And Elon promptly responded, "Yes, public viewing of Starship is easy from the South Padre Island, and the view is excellent. Also, the rocket factory and launch towers are right by a public highway." And Audrey Strobel responded, "Thanks for answering her question, heart." But this wasn't the only instance of Elon offering tech support. Colin Wright said, "X articles are broken. Linking to paywall Substack articles get orders of magnitude more reach than linking to paywalled X articles. X subscribers only. I'd like to help keep people on the platform, but there's no incentive. It seems like an obvious and easy thing to fix." And Elon said, "Thank you for letting me know." So it remains to be seen what he'll do about that. Next up, Starlink. Elon reposted Gwynne Shotwell, who said, "Starlink direct-to-cell leveraging the spectrum is a game changer for connecting the world. So excited to work with telcos across the globe to get this capability into people's hands." Literally. Also, Grok received a huge update, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Sean Davis posted how Wikipedia's corrupt censorship of conservative media isn't new. In fact, the site has been blacklisted from FDR-LST for over a decade, all because we exposed Neil deGrasse Tyson as a fabulous and fabricator. Censorship doesn't stop at the end of the column or webpage, as I detailed in NY Post today. Wikipedia-style censorship is a threat to civilization itself, starts with words and moves to destruction of statues and monuments and ends up with the murder of actual people. And he linked his article about Wikipedia censorship. SEO for Deplorables said, "Everything is interconnected. When Wikipedia determines that a source is genuinely unreliable, Google uses that as proof that the site should be removed from its own trusted source list. This happened to every conservative site between 2018 and 2020. And you can see that right here. As Wikipedia sourced something as unreliable, the Google searches for it went down. And Elon put 2 exclamation points. He also reposted the All In podcast, who says, "Watch. Elon Musk and David Sachs brainstorm Grokipedia live." And here's a clip of that.
As an example, but this really applies to books, PDFs, websites, every form of information. Grok is using heavy amounts of inference compute to look at, as an example, a Wikipedia page and say, what is true, partially true, or false, or missing in this page? Now rewrite the page to remove the falsehoods, correct the half-truths, and add the missing context.
Elon, by the way, could you just publish that? Could we create like a Grokipedia? Wikipedia is so biased, and it's a constant war. You know, if something gets corrected, 5 minutes later, there'll be an army of people trying to. I mean, it's become hyper partisan, and there's like activists all over it. So if you do fix, for example, Wikipedia as a source of truth, it'd be great to publish that just so the world has it.
All right, I'll talk to the team about that, like Grokipedia or whatever. Here's the Grokipedia version.
And this shows the creation of Grokipedia. Elon also reposted Grums, who said, "Tesla won't work, SpaceX won't work, Musk's Twitter won't work, Musk's Wikipedia won't work. You are here." I hope these people aren't betting on Polymarket. They must have lost a small fortune by now. And you can see these different articles. Elon Musk's Wikipedia competitor is going to be a disaster. Elon Musk's chainsaw approach to Twitter won't work, says early SpaceX investor and former Facebook executive. Pebble of Texas responded to this, saying, "Fixed it." Now it says, Elon Musk's Wikipedia competitor is going to be a disaster for the left, and Elon said, laughing face, right on the money. He also responded to Data Republican, who said, "Alerting George Soros and the Muskie Fellowship Program. I'm deep into writing a difficult chapter right now, but I had to take a break to share this with you. The Muskie Program was one of the U.S. biggest software projects in the 1990s, and George Soros was inside the U.S. government's official program. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the U.S. launched the Edmund S. Muskie Fellowship Program. Its mission? Bring young professionals from former Soviet republics to America to earn degrees in law, business, economics, and public administration. Then send them back home to spread markets, democracy, and governance. Here's the twist. While it was a US program run under the Fulbright-Hayes Act, the government didn't run it alone. Instead, it handed administration to 4 big organizations: the IIE, the IREX, the ACTR, the ACCELS, and the Soros Foundation. Yes, George Soros' foundation was an official US partner helping to recruit, select, and place students in US universities. And he says, this is straight off the Federal Register. Now ask yourself why Wikipedia doesn't mention the Soros Foundation. And if you look at this right here, it mentions the Muskie program, but it never mentions the Soros Foundation. LaWh Marcotti says, Wikipedia may omit Soros from search results because Tides and OSF pass-through grants funds to the Wikimedia Foundation, which operates Wikipedia, and related projects like the Wikimedia Commons. Wikimedia provides infrastructure, funding, and support to keep Wikipedia free and accessible. And Elon says, noted, further emphasizing why he wants to create Grokipedia. Also, Grok continues to smash benchmarks. Elon reposted XFreeze, who said, Grok code hits massive 2.2 trillion tokens on kilocode monthly usage with leading adoption no competitor can match. And you can see that right here, just destroying all these guys. And Elon says, Grok code just passed 2 trillion tokens. He also quoted Gaurav, who said, Grok code fast is right up there. High difference edit success rate than Claude 4.5 and GPT-5 codecs, and much cleaner and cheaper if I may add. Try it out. Don't stop using it, and keep sending all that feedback our way. It's only going to get better. And Elon said Grok. Now, Grok received a huge update today. Elon reposted Tech Dev Notes, who said Grok Expert Mode now shows images in responses. And as you can see, he prompted saying Model Y, and it showed a picture of the Model Y as well as pricing baked into the prompt. Elon also reposted Arno, an XAI engineer, saying, get product reviews, look for scenic locations, find memes, whatever you want to see. Look for it on Grok.com. And he quoted Tech Dev Notes. Elon also reposted XFreeze saying the same thing, showing this very professional image of all of Elon's companies with inline pictures. And finally, Elon Musk showed how to make an easy shortcut into the Grok app. He quoted XFreeze saying, here's how to instantly open the Grok AI assistant with the action button on an iPhone. Siri doesn't have any real assistant capabilities. It can't answer basic questions, struggles with simple tasks, and is seriously limited. Grok AI is a fully capable assistant, answers in real time, and does quick web search when needed automatically without needing to do anything. Here's how to make Grok as your go-to assistant with the action button. Open settings, tap on the action button, swipe to select shortcut, tap to choose a shortcut, search for the Grok app, select Talk to Grok as your action, and done. Now, just press and hold the action button to get instant Grok access. You can trigger Grok from the lock screen or any app with your action button. Make sure the Grok app is updated for the best experience. And you can see all the steps right here. Opening settings, swipe to the shortcut, select Talk to Grok, and press and hold for the assistant. Now you guys can replace Siri with Grok. Now moving on to Tesla, James Stevenson said, Tesla's Q3 deliveries were a record for any quarter ever, but here's how they compare against all prior Q3s. $Tesla. You can see that right here. Deliveries really started to pick up in 2020, but you can see how, even compared to 2024, there's been massive buying of electric vehicles from Tesla. Elon reposted Tesla Energy, who said 12.5 gigawatts of energy storage deployed in Q3. You can see that graph right here, just the exponential growth. Alright, so moving on to politics, Elon responded to Wokeness, who said Ilhan Omar, the idea that America is a white nation that must be preserved is disgusting. And Elon responded, equal treatment for all would mean that she would say the same thing about Somalia being for Somalis, but she doesn't because she's extremely racist against white people. He also laughed at Konstantin Kisin, who said, I'd like to get ahead of politicians by reminding you that diversity is our greatest strength. And Elon was rolling on the floor from that one at 1:26 a.m. might I add. He also reposted Defiant Els, who said, Elon Musk, to summarize the woke mind virus, it consists of creating very, very diversive identity politics. It actually amplifies racism. It amplifies, frankly, sexism and all of the isms. And Neo Berg said, I actually hate diversity. And Elon had a laughing face and a fire. And racism is a theme that Elon has been focusing on a lot recently. He responded to Concerned Citizen, who posted this clip.
Now I'm in this absurd situation where I was born in South Africa but cannot get a license to operate in Starlink because I'm not black.
Well, it looks
Does
like
that
that's
seem
about.
right
Look,
to
it
you?
looks
Does
like
seem
that.
right to you?
Looks like that's about to change.
I just asked you a question. Please answer. Does that seem right to you?
Well, those rules were designed.
Yes or no?
Those rules were designed to bring about an era of more economic equality in South Africa, and it looks like the government has found a way around those rules for you.
Ask you a question.
And Elon responded to that, "This is messed up." Elon responded to Wyvert, who said, Fukuyama lists potential causes of recent political populism. No mention in the list that there has been a surge of immigration and is highly unpopular. He is out of touch. Dr. Clayton Forrester responded, "He's not out of touch. He's afraid to mention it." Correct, said Elon Musk. And maybe he's afraid to mention it because of all the migrant crime we've been seeing, which Elon Musk has highlighted. For example, today he reposted Matt Vance, who said, Irina's law has been sitting on North Carolina Governor Josh Stein's desk for 9 days. He still hasn't signed it. 9 days he could have signed a bill protecting innocent people from repeat violent offenders. 9 days of silence. What exactly is he waiting for? Elon also reposted Eric Daughtry, who said, just in, Republicans are currently furious with North Carolina's Governor Josh Stein for allowing Irina's law to sit on his desk for 9 days straight without signing it. The law ends cashless bail for many crimes and removes loopholes for officials to release criminals back on the streets, to just go back out and harm Americans. It was passed with a veto-proof coalition. Stop delaying. And you can see Irina Zarutska right here. And David Atherton posted about this from Cologne, Germany. Once again, a so-called isolated incident this time, and it's my child. Yesterday evening, my 14-year-old daughter was brutally attacked by a girl with an immigrant background in a small town near Cologne. She was knocked to the ground and kicked in the face and groin. Fortunately, her friends reacted immediately and called the police and an ambulance. My daughter has been in the children's hospital ever since. Physically, she is stable, no lasting damage, but it's hard to imagine what this does to a girl at this age emotionally. And yet, it will once again be dismissed as an isolated incident. What constitutes extremism is not a legal question, but a political science question. The Office for Protection of the Constitution is advised here by left-wing experts. It is becoming a weapon of the left-wing ideological state apparatus, the enforcer of the cathedral. This is why we need remigration. And I didn't want to show the picture here, but I've linked it in the description if you guys want to see it. And Elon's response was terrible. Alright, and you may remember this from yesterday, how Harvard hires drag queen named LaWh Vaginstan as a visiting professor. Today it was quoted by Ted Cruz, who said, how can this be real? Ah! And Elon Musk said, I'm not surprised. TBH, laughing face. The New York Post opinion said, when it comes to LaWh Vaginstan at Harvard, I'm not even outraged. It's hilarious. And you can see this is supposedly LaWh Vaginstan right here. And Elon said, pretty funny name, I have to admit. Dying face. Now, Elon talked a lot about Britain today. He started by responding to the British Patriot, who said, the far right doesn't drive into crowds. The far right doesn't knife innocent people. The far right doesn't blow up pop concerts. The far right doesn't gang white girls. The far right aren't 90% of MI5's terror watch list. The imaginary far right doesn't exist. Showing this picture, saying, the far right is a real threat, says Keir Starmer. And Elon says Starmer is an actor with an empty head. Others feed him the words to say. He also reposted Avi Yamini, who said Tommy Robinson was right about it all. And Tommy Robinson is the guy who organized the huge Take Back Britain protest that Elon participated in. Now, during Yom Kippur, there was a synagogue attack, and Peter Lloyd said the Manchester synagogue attacker looked Muslim, and he was heard shouting, Allahu Akbar. Yet the BBC blames neo-Nazis and the far right. And you can see that right here.
People on the hard right, the far right, are a bit divided on their attitude to the Jewish community these days in the UK.
And Elon said, Hitler used to say that all the time. Practically a catchphrase. Wally Nowinski said the British just totally throwing in the towel as a civilization is honestly depressing at this point. Quoting James Graham, who said the London Stock Exchange is dying. We have dropped out of the 20 IPO markets, falling behind Mexico. In 2006, London raised 51 billion. This year it was 248 million. Look at that massive decline. And Elon said, seriously. Joe Jagibo responded, feel culturally enriched yet, UK? And it says, grape reported every hour in London. Elon thought that was crazy. He also quoted Konstantin Kisin again, saying a man called Jihad has gone on murder spree on a synagogue, and two respected, neutral and balanced recent BBC stalwarts would like you to believe the problem is right-wing journalists, referencing the clip from earlier. And Elon said, reality is far more bizarre than fiction. Tommy Robinson posted, thank you to @Elon Musk. The world can follow the state of British tyranny. 12 million views, your secret court, our secret no more at Keir Starmer. And you can see this post from Tommy Robinson from a couple days ago has 12 million views. Clay Thompson responded, literally though, without X, the entire West would be completely captured by authoritarian rule at this point. And Elon Musk replied, buying this platform has caused me enormous pain, but it had to be done to strengthen the pillars holding up Western civilization. Disclosed TV said just in, UK's counter-terrorism police named Manchester synagogue attacker as Jihad al-Shami, a 35-year-old UK citizen of Syrian descent, per Sky. Daniel said, I'm reserving judgment until we hear Jihad's side of the story. And Elon thought that was funny. And finally, Sophie Corcoran said, how do we fix the country? I mean, can it be fixed? And Tommy Robinson said, I could fix it. And Elon replied with 2 British flags. Also, he responded to L, who said, so that Jessica Chastain movie about defeating the hacker known as 4chan is apparently based on a secretive ADL unit. Apple TV postpones a Jessica Chastain thriller inspired by secretive ADL unit. A New York Times report says the charged atmosphere around Charlie Kirk's murder has delayed the release of The Savant, based on a real-life, highly covert anti-extremism monitor. And Elon was puzzled by that. Now, moving on to Netflix, Robbie Starbuck said, did you know that Netflix sent all their vice presidents to a privilege workshop where they got labeled as privileged for being white and or not being transgender? No one should give this woke company another dime. Totally insane. Showing a picture that says, we started that through in-person workshops in our first year, which we run ourselves. One of my first workshops was for Netflix vice president around the world in 2019. The topic was privilege, and we were in a big meeting room in Utah. Each vice president completed an exercise to locate themselves on the spectrum of privilege, be it cisgender, straight, white, or someone without a disability. And Dr. Danny Nguyen said Netflix executive picnic, showing this clip of a bunch of oddly dressed people. And Elon had a laugh at that. He also responded, wow, to American AF, who said, did Charlie know everything? Referencing a post from Charlie Kirk that said, this is your daily reminder that Susan Rice sits on the board of Netflix and the Obamas received tens of millions of dollars from Netflix. They should be forced to answer for being part of a P3 to file streaming platform. Also, Libs of TikTok posted, Netflix Leave the World Behind movie warns about not trusting white people if there's an apocalypse. Barack and Michelle Obama are executive producers of the film. Why does Netflix hate white people? And Elon said, good question. He also quoted Libs of TikTok saying Netflix is grooming our children. Showing this clip from Libs of TikTok.
Correct response. Like cotton candy clouds floating in a blue sky. Banafi will slap that runway. Tell us why you chose this delicious dress.
As a transberry, I love living out loud as my most authentic self. And I wanted to dress as bold and unique as I am.
He also quoted Mike Lee, who said, raise your hand if you resent Netflix. Showing this from the Wall Street Mav, which is a lesbian kissing scene in a children's show. And Elon said, Netflix is deliberately choosing to pay people to create sexualized content for children. Freedom of speech should always be respected, but this is paid speech. Netflix is going out of their way, reaching into their wallet to push this. He also quoted Mr. Patel, who said the real face of Netflix. Every recent movie on Netflix, the white man is the villain, the black man is the hero, the gay guy is the voice of reason, the woman has the balls, the dad is an idiot, the mom is the breadwinner, and children are sexualized. Netflix is social engineering, not entertainment. And Elon said, it's so rare as to be shocking in recent years to see a straight white man as the hero, not counting movies based on the comic books created last century or made by Tom Cruise. He also replied good to Eric Daughtry, who said Congressman Tim Burchett will now have Netflix executives testify to Congress about why they are pushing sexualized transgender shows on young kids. Cancel Netflix. And Elon posted a funny thread that he saw. Here's that picture right there. He also responded to Lauren Chen, who said, there is no reason to have a makeout scene, especially a gay one in a children's show. The showrunners making this content are ideologically driven perverts who are trying to groom your kids, period. Referencing the same picture from earlier. And Elon's response was definitely gratuitous. He also responded to Peter Sweden, who said, schools are brainwashing children by indoctrinating them with woke. Mainstream media is brainwashing people by lying about the news. Netflix is brainwashing people by using entertainment as propaganda. And Elon said, yup. And referencing the cartoon from earlier, Elon says, why is Transberry in a kid's show on Netflix? That's a good question. I don't know. Alright, and now an update on the government shutdown. JD Vance quoted Anna Paulina Luna, who said, some may say it's Photoshop, showing this gorgeous picture of JD Vance. And JD Vance says, it's real. And Elon had a laugh at that. And JD also posted, this is important, money is fungible. And that's why the Democrats and the media lie that healthcare is not going to illegals. Consider For instance, 2 state Medicaid programs, Ohio and New York. New York gives Medicaid to illegals and Ohio doesn't. When the government gives billions of dollars to New York for Medicaid, that frees up state money in New York that can be used to be spent on illegals. It's like if you go to a mobster with $100 and he promises that he won't spend the money to buy a gun or commit a crime. Well, he takes the $100 you gave him and buys food. And then he takes the money he would have spent on food and uses that money to buy a gun instead. Additionally, because the medical services are limited in supply, when an illegal accesses healthcare, it drives up the cost for everybody. So New Yorkers are paying a higher price for medical services, and the federal government is subsidizing those higher prices. So everyone in the media, from George Stephanopoulos to Jake Tapper, repeating these Democrat talking points, is engaged in the Democrat propaganda war. Democrats shut down the government to give healthcare money to illegal aliens. It's really that simple. And Elon said, exactly. He also asked if the records of the CRS could be made accessible to the public. The CRS was the racial censorship arm of the DOJ, signed into law with the Civil Rights Act. Its function was to threaten and silence the families of white victims of racial crime. Its stated goal was to keep the peace between races, but in reality, was only weaponized against the white families. If you ever seen a white victim's family immediately after a tragedy go on the news and say an obvious hate crime wasn't about race, that was the CRS at work. Good riddance. And you can see that defunding right here, minus $24 million. Goodbye, CRS. He also responded to this thread by Chris Pope, who said Medicaid spending on emergency services for undocumented aliens bumped up during the pandemic, but suddenly soared last year. And you can see that right here. Went up during the pandemic, went down, and then soared last year. He then said 71% of the spending is in California, where spending on emergency services for undocumented aliens suddenly leapt from $1.6 billion in 2023 to $6.4 billion in 2024. They established a state benefit for undocumented immigrants, supposedly with state money. Chris Pope then said the state seems to have classified 56 of its increased spending on unauthorized immigrants as an emergency care. Normally, emergency care accounts for only 5% of healthcare spending. And Elon says, looks like a clear case of fraud. He also reposted AAG Harmeet Dillon, who said so much winning, even winning for America's voters during the government shutdown at civil rights. Quoting attorney Michael E. Gates, winning, court agrees with our request that South Carolina hand over its voter registration. Clean voter rolls equal clean elections. And we saw yesterday this clip of all the Democrats raising their hands if they would give health care benefits to illegal immigrants. And Congressman Brandon Gill said, moderator, raise your hand if your government plan would provide health insurance for undocumented immigrants. This is the Democrat Party position. And Elon reposted that. He also reposted this from Donald J. Trump, as well as responding with a laughy face emoji. Here's that clip.
Schumer, mi fellow Americanos, al cierre de Schumer. That means welcome to the Schumer shutdown. We call it the Schumer siesta, right? It's the Schumer siesta. He put the government on siesta, crying Chuck. And El Jefe Jeffries, we used to call him Dollar Store Obama, till we realized he's worth far less than $1. But they put the government on siesta to give illegal aliens your health care. We're not going to let it happen. I looked at both of them. I said, we're not going to let it happen. It's no bueno. I said, it's no bueno. They begged me. They said, but por favor, please give illegal aliens the health care. I said, we're not going to do it. We're never going to do it. It's not going to happen. And they're also very upset about our big, beautiful sombreros. You look at them. These are the greatest sombreros the world has ever seen. We really have the best sombreros, and everybody wants one except Crying Chuck and El Hakimo Jefe Jeffries. They don't want one, but they're going to wear one when all is said and done. We're going to end the siesta. We're going to reopen the government, and we will not give in to the demands of Chuck and El Jefe. We're not going to do that. Thank you. God bless you. Dio lo bendiga, and God bless America. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
All right, and moving on to wokeness, Considered Citizen posted, I think Elon Musk is an idiot. Why? Because he invented SpaceX and Tesla? People are waking up. They've been lied to the entire time. You're terrified because he's allowed speech you can't control? Incredible exchange. You can literally watch the liberal left malfunction in real time as they realize they've lost control of the narrative. And that's from this clip right here. And Elon's response was, haha, amazing. I'm an idiot far more often than I'd like, TBH. So he's not entirely wrong. He also responded to Diomede's Appreciator, who says she's an ethno-nationalist for her team, but it's wrong for you to be one for yours, referencing this clip from earlier of Representative Ilhan Omar saying that we can't have white identity in the United States. And Elon said, pure hypocrisy. He also responded to Wolf, who said only 3.7% of population in Britain is black, and in large parts of the country, there are pretty much no black people at all. Despite that fact, black people feature in half of all TV ads. Even before the BLM movement in 2020, black people featured in 37% of ads. It's social engineering. They're trying to normalize Britain not being a country of English, Northern Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. And you can see that right here. TV adverts overrepresent black people and ignore over 70s, study finds. And Elon's response was, who is pushing this? To the best of my knowledge, there is no effort to put white people in TV ads in non-white countries. That would be considered ridiculous. It isn't even discussed. Why is diversity only pushed in historically white countries? Real question. And he also said wow to Svetlana Lokova, who said Cambridge University has recently confirmed, to my surprise, that my former professor of 20 years, who I fell out with because he wrote a false article about Glenn Finn, who is an MI5 officer. Christopher Andrews' article about the 2014 Cambridge dinner with Glenn Flynn falsely stated that Glenn Flynn was attracted to me and invited me to Moscow. It was published in the week of Glenn Flynn's resignation as President Trump's national security advisor. Over. The media falsely claimed that Glenn Flynn had contacts with Russian intelligence. This formed the part of the Mueller investigation of Glenn Finn. And here's that right here. Now Bukele posted, as of today, the so-called inclusive language is prohibited in all public education centers. And you can see that right here. This is his decree. And Elon says, bravo. He also agrees with this from Defiant L, who quoted Elon Musk saying, I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus. Buying X was saving free speech, and soon Grokipedia will be making sure people get factual, unbiased information. Alright, and you may remember the SPLC from yesterday. The SPLC refers to the Southern Poverty Law Center. And today Elon said, incitement to violence by evil propaganda organizations like the SPLC is unacceptable. This is getting people killed. Referring to the SPLC using the same narrative about Charlie Kirk that the ADL did. He also redefined the meaning of SPLC, saying it stands for stupid propaganda laboriously created. And Slacker created a new logo for them right here. He also reposted Jack Pozo, who said this is the only mention of Antifa by the SPLC. And this says, designating Antifa as domestic terrorist organization is dangerous, threatens civil liberties. He also agreed with David Sachs, who said, notice that conservative groups have no problem admitting they're conservative, but far-left groups like Wikipedia, ADL, or SPLC always pretend to be neutral. He also reposted David Sachs again, saying if you search for Stephen Miller, a hateful article by the SPLC is the first link in Google search results after Google's own content and Wikipedia. Is this an organic result or an editorial decision by Google to boost SPLC? And their description of Stephen Miller was, Stephen Miller is credited with shaping the racist and draconian immigration policies of President Trump. Elon was also alarmed by this post from Jack Poso, who said, as a reminder, when the FBI went after Catholics, it used the SPLC articles as their probable cause for placing us under federal surveillance. He also thought this was odd from David Sachs, who said, same is true for Jack Posiebek. If SPLC targets a conservative, it appears to get a top result in Google search. And you can see that right here. Now ALX asked, hey FBI Director Kash Patel, does FBI still have an active partnership with SPLC? Citing how they were partnered in the past. And Elon quoted that saying, good question. He also thought Jack Poso had a good question, saying the SPLC hate merchants published this just a few months before a leftist murdered Charlie Kirk. What is going on here? And this is the post. Turning Point USA, a case study of the hard right in 2024. On this same line, he also said that the SPLC is guilty of incitement to murder Charlie Kirk. And he agreed with Andrew Colvett, who said, what's happening right now to the ADL and SPLC is critically important and deadly serious. They are both part of an ecosystem leveraged by political radical left vigilantes to dehumanize conservatives and stoke political violence. They provide the sheen of legitimacy for the left's violent foot soldiers. The day before Charlie Kirk was murdered, the SPLC published a newsletter directly attacking Charlie. In May, they added TPUSA to the notorious hate map. Did these contribute to the assassin's motive? We may never know. But the swirl of extremist propaganda certainly played a role. And Elon said, exactly. Also, we responded to this thread from David Sachs that we talked about earlier, messaging at Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google. He also reposted this thread from PRCs, who said on the day before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the SPLC included him and Turning Point in their monthly Hate Watch newsletter. The SPLC has blood on their hands. And it says right here, September 2025, Intelligence Project Dispatch. Trends and incidents of the hard right. from the Hate Watch staff, and it labels Turning Point right here. Finally, he reposted Robbie Starbuck, who said the SPLC featured me in this 2024 report titled The Year in Hate and Extremism 2. The document demonizes people like me and Charlie without merit and lists us in the same report as Nazis. Why does the @FBI work with him and FBI Director Kash Patel? Why do they have tax-exempt status at Secretary Scott Bessent? And then after all that, Kash Patel said, the disgraceful record of the SPLC makes them unfit for any FBI partnership. Under this post it says, breaking, Kash Patel's FBI cuts all ties to the Southern Poverty Law Center. And Elon gave 2 American flags. And Andrew Colvin said the SPLC hate list is really a hit list, showing this from Charlie Kirk. And this post from Charlie Kirk says, remember the Family Research Council? An SPLC-inspired gunman went after them all. They'd love nothing more than to see TPUSA in the crosshairs. And Elon quoted that saying yes. Alright, and ending off with something light, Yaman posted, Sam Altman won, Elon Musk lost. Says OpenAI dethrones SpaceX as the world's most valuable startup. Yashu Sharma says, wait till he finds out Elon started both. And Elon replied, laughing 100. He also reposted Ian Miles Chong, who said, Elon Musk puts it simply, you are your brain, not your heart, not your body, but your brain. That lump of neurons is who you are, your entire identity. And the crazy part, science is only just beginning to figure out what consciousness even is. We don't know how thoughts turn into awareness. We don't even know how you know you exist. Captain Eli posted, I don't just support Elon, I love Elon. And just like Elon, I think/hope, I don't care what anyone else says. Flexing emoji. And Elon loved that. He also responded to Ligma, who said, what is Ligma? Ligma is the first serious mobile IDE with agent TUIs built in, full terminal support, cloud dev containers, ship from your phone without any additional setup. Find out how to get access. And you can see Ligma right here from Claude Max. And Elon said, Johnson? ? Alright, and last but not least, Humble Flow said, I care more about saving this door than about the fate of the entire third world. And this is the door. It's a beautiful door. I love this door. And Elon said, looks like a solidly zombie-proof door. And ladies and gentlemen, that was everything Elon Musk posted about in the last 24 hours. Kind of crazy that Elon Musk experienced racism and was cut off from South Africa. I also thought it was funny to see him interact on such a personal level with people on X. And it was cool to see Grok updates. It's also interesting to see the influence Elon has over organizations like the SPLC, Netflix, and the ADL. And tracking that over the next couple weeks will be very interesting. Now, this is my last video for a while because Jacob will be back tomorrow. So hopefully over the next couple days he'll be able to cover version 14 of Full Self-Driving, which Elon promised would be out by the end of the week. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, if you'd like to support this channel, join it as a member or simply subscribe, and I am out.